Hi everyone, Christopher Paul here from kassandra.org. Today we're going to learn about task and story dependencies. Dependencies let you define relationships between tasks and stories, ensuring that one task can only start after another task is finished. This is crucial for managing complex workflows and project schedules. Let's look at our current sprint. We have 3 stories: config API implementation, config persistence implementation, and config security implementation. Each story has its own tasks. We also have a milestone that is manually scheduled to start next week, but all stories are ignoring that. Let's add a relation from each story to ensure they can only start after the start milestone. To create a dependency, we hold down the control key and drag one task or story onto another. Let's make the API story depend on the start milestone. First, I'll hold down Control and drag the API story onto the milestone. Notice in the dependency column, the API story now shows the ID of the start milestone. This means the API story can only start after the milestone. The Gantt chart was also updated automatically and now shows that the story starts after the milestone. We can even see a small arrow representing the dependency. Now let's do that for the 2 other stories too. The second story is now also dependent on the milestone, but as you can see in the Gantt chart, it starts later. It actually starts after the first story. The reason for that is that all tasks in both stories are assigned to the same resource, Grace, and Grace can only work at one task at a time, so Cassandra schedules the tasks accordingly. We can also create dependencies between individual tasks. Let's say we need to create the controller before we can write the API documentation. Perfect. Now the API documentation task depends on the create controller task. Dependencies can even cross story boundaries. Let's say the security audit task depends on the API error handling task being complete. I'll hold Control and drag the security audit task from the security story onto the API error handling task in the API story. Excellent. Now the security audit won't start until the API error handling is complete. This gives us a clear path through our work. What if we need to remove a dependency? It's just as easy. We simply hold Control and drag the task onto the same predecessor again. It acts like a toggle. Let's remove the dependency between the security audit and API error handling. See? The dependency is gone. The dependency column for the security audit task is now empty again. Tasks can have multiple dependencies. Let's make the security implementation story depend on both the API and persistence stories. I'll add a dependency from the security story to the API story. And now I'll add another dependency from the security story to the persistence story. Perfect. Now the security story has 2 dependencies. It can only start once both the API and persistence stories are complete. This is really powerful for managing complex project dependencies. And that's all there is to managing task and story dependencies in Cassandra. Remember, hold Control and drag to create or remove dependencies. This feature helps you build realistic project schedules and ensures work happens in the right order. Thanks for watching.